Pakistan's economy is in poor health. It is what mainstream media is telling us on the daily basis. Let's see what numbers tell us in this regard. From 1960 to 2000, in a 60 years, Pakistan's economy grew from 3.75 billion US dollars to uh, 356 billion US dollars. During 1965 war, the GDP growth of the Pakistan was more than 10%. In 1971 war, the GDP was only 0.5%. But in 2020, the growth was negative, minus 1.3, worst in the entire history of the country. From 1970 to 2021, the external debt, not the total debt of the Pakistan, grew from 3.26 to 110 billion US dollars, close to doubling each decade. Domestic debt, that is not shown here in this graph, is almost twice the external debt. From 1970 to 2007, Pakistan's IMF debt increased from half a billion US dollars to 1.65 billion US dollars. Let's say it tripled in 37 years. But in next 3 years, the country's IMF loan ballooned to 10.26 billion dollars. Still, Pakistan's IMF debt makes up a small portion of the country's total debt. From 1976 to 2001, Pakistan had a steady increase in exports. From 2011 to date, the country's exports have shown no progress. Pakistan's exports make up only 8.6% of the country's GDP, and that's the problem. Like exports, Pakistan's imports have also steadily increased. The problem is that imports have been almost double than the size of the exports. This disparity between imports and exports has been an economic challenge for the country. And with the increasing population, this disparity may become widen even more in the future. From 1970 to 1985, foreign direct investments remained below 1% of the GDP. Two episodes of sharp increases in foreign direct investments have been between 1985 and 2000, and similarly between 2003 and 2007. Both of these times saw very close US and Pakistan security cooperation. Since 2007, foreign direct investments have been in decline, bottoming in 2018 by reaching below 0.5% of the GDP. From 1990 to 2008, Pakistan's information and communication technology exports remained stagnant, but since 2008, the exports have been on the rise, reaching 2.45 billion US dollars. The communications import declined from 1970 to 2000. From 2000 to 2005, the percentage of communication imports increased sharply. And then since 2005, the imports didn't show a particular trend. Communications and computers have made a good percentage of Pakistan's service imports. Pakistan is a crossroad between Central, South, and East Asia, as well as the Middle East. Despite of her important geographic location and having borders with economic giants such as China and India, the percentage of travel service imports of Pakistan has not shown a consistent rise or a decline. Unlike travel services imports, travel services exports show a trend, and that is a decline, which is unfortunate considering the economic prosperity of the wider region and Pakistan's diverse landscapes. Except for the first couple of years of the 1960s, inflation has been usually high in Pakistan, but two inflation spikes, one in 1974 with 26% inflation, and the other one in the year 2000 with 38.5% of inflation, have been unparalleled in the history of the country. As a result of inflation in 5 years, moderate to severe food insecurity has more than doubled. 38% of the country's population is facing food insecurity. From 2000 to 2017, the undernourished percentage of the population was in decline. Unfortunately, since 2017, the undernourished percentage of the population is on the rise again. Besides food insecurity, 36% of the population does not have access to safe drinking water. There is a good news. The number of maternal deaths in Pakistan is declining. Despite the great variations in the sizes of the economies, in per capita expenditure on education, Pakistan is similar to India, better than Japan, and slightly behind the US. If we live in a world dominated by a knowledge economy, then why Pakistan's economy is in such poor health is the question. The answer may be in the variations of expenditure on research and development. Pakistan spends only $12 per capita on research and development. Iran, on the other hand, spends $174. India spends $50. China $388. Japan $1,390, and US $1,770.